Hey everyone, it's attorney Bianca Jordan from brazenlegal.com. Thanks so much for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next one. Today's video is on the difference between asylum status and refugee status. They're very similar in that in order to apply for asylum, you have to first prove that you are in fact a refugee. So there is some overlapping, but they are very different as well. So the first difference is that if you are applying for asylum, you do so in the United States. And I know this is going to get a little bit murky because right now asylum policy is kind of not really following international law, which states that you apply for asylum in the United States. Right now, we have a very controversial program from the Trump administration in which they are sending asylum seekers back to Mexico, which contravenes our immigration laws as well as international law. But before the Trump administration, the way that the asylum process is supposed to go, you come to the United States, you come to the border, and you say that you're seeking asylum. You are given something called a credible fear interview, in which an immigration officer is going to ask you a series of questions to determine whether you do really have a credible fear that you will suffer persecution or that you have suffered persecution in your home country on account of your race, nationality, political opinion, your religion, and your membership in a particular social group. um, Once you apply for asylum, so when you come to the United States, you have a year from when you enter the United States to apply for asylum. If you pass your credible fear interview, typically they will parole you in and then you're able to apply for asylum. You do so within a year. And once your application has been pending for 150 days, you're able to apply for a work card. And while your application is still pending, you can continue to renew this work card, and your application that's pending acts as a shield to protect you from being placed in removal proceedings. So the asylum process happens inside the United States. And then, let's say your application for asylum is approved and you're granted asylum, you can also petition for your family members to get asylum as well. And then, once you've had asylum for a year, you may apply for a green card after a year if you would like to. The difference with refugees is that when you're applying to be a refugee, you are doing so from outside of the United States. So, as a refugee, so in the Immigration Nation documentary series, we saw a woman from Uganda who was a refugee. She went to Kenya with her family and she applied for refugee status. You go through the United Nations refugee program to apply to go to another country to become a refugee there. You do not get to necessarily pick the country. You can request where you want to go, but the country has to accept you. And the United States, as we learned in the documentary, they accept less than 1% of refugee requests to come to the United States. And the Trump administration has drastically reduced the number of refugees that we now allow to come into the United States. Prior to the Trump administration, when you're applying as a refugee and your application is processed and approved, you're moving to that new country, let's say the United States, you're moving to that country with your family. However, the Trump administration has implemented a series of changes to this process such that you can no longer emigrate at the same time as your country, and they have implemented a series of policies that now separate families for longer. But once you come to the United States as a refugee, once you've had your refugee status for a year, you must apply for a green card. Unlike with asylum status, you don't have to. So that is the major difference between asylum and refugees. The asylum process in the United States is ever changing. As of the date of this video, there is a lawsuit that has been approved to be a class action to include people that were trying to apply for asylum, but they have been told that they need to do so in Mexico. So asylum law and policy in the United States is constantly changing. Immigration law in general in the United States is constantly changing. I feel like it changes every week at this point. And on August 25th, 2020, immigration law and policy is going to be changing again. So currently, as I just mentioned, when you come to the United States, you have 1 year to apply for asylum. And then once your application has been pending for 150 days, you are able to apply for a work card. Beginning on August 25th of this year, if you come to the United States with a visa, and you apply for asylum, you can still apply for a work card, but instead of 150 days, you will now have to wait 365. Similarly, if you come to the United States undocumented, so you come to the United States without a visa and you want to apply for asylum, you can still apply for asylum, but you will no longer be able to apply for a work card. So they're constantly changing the processes, they're constantly moving the goalposts to try to make it harder for immigrants to come to the United States to live a better life. But I did want to at least hop on this video real quick and explain to you the key differences between the asylum process and the refugee process. I hope you found this video helpful. Please visit brazenlegal.com/asylum to learn more about the asylum process. I do not handle many, if any, refugee cases because this process is very different and happens outside of the United States. But I still hope that you found this video helpful. And please don't forget to hit the bell to subscribe so that you don't miss the next video. Thanks for watching.